I'm going to turn back to something we talked about yesterday that I didn't quite get on to before I get to FeminExit, I didn't quite get on to this point I wanted to make, which is, we had Katie Hopkins, we played her little video from Beverly Hills, and she was, all excited about, the spirit of liberty, and just people are happy to be out, and they want to be in the world. They want to be talking to people. They want to be social. She said we miss the noise, and I've mentioned a couple times we've just missed the kind of normal life in America that seems very repressed. And one thing I meant to mention yesterday, and I forgot to do, but I want to do it in conjunction or connected to that spirit that you saw in Beverly Hills, of all places. You saw people, and this has been going on for days and days. It wasn't a one-day thing. It's people, as you saw in the video from yesterday, Katie Hopkins, people of all backgrounds, race, ethnicity, national origin. They just want to be out in public. They want to be social. They want to be free. They want to be happy. Joy was just effusive in this Beverly Hills thing. And that is spreading around this country, I think. There is a spirit of, we want to stand up now, have our freedom now in America. And we're not going to wait anymore. We're not going to wait until we find out when the government officials tell us that maybe we're allowed to have our, next phase of opening our society, or whether we're allowed to go to restaurants or stand, 3 feet away from people instead of 6 feet away. People want normal life back now. So something happened in the football world I want to just mention. I don't know why I meant to mention this yesterday. I wanted to get it out today. There was a great thing that some football players from USC did. And that, we have family who went to USC. So we're, and it's a great football school, or it was. Anyway, the USC actually had a wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he is a player on the USC team. And he put out in a tweet a letter to the governor of California, signed on by the USC football team, saying, "Let us play." When you ask about the kind of things people ask me all the time when I give speeches, what can I do? How can I help? I'm so frustrated. This is a stroke of brilliance. This is taking something people want, which is football, to return. They want normal life to return. And this kid is a player at USC. He puts out a letter to the governor of California, a tweet basically saying, come on, get behind us. Let us play football. So you have USC and the Pac-12, and they, I think they were told they weren't going to have any season at all. But he's saying, come on, Governor, you got to lift this. You got to have this. The Big Ten announced they're going to return to play in the 2020 season on October 24th. These are just signs. There's signs around this country that people want their freedom back. They want life back. They want normalcy back. They're tired and they're done with these it's not just the shutdown of our economy, but it's the whole this sense of America shut down, blanketed, masked, sheltered in place, forced to stay home, becoming submissive and subservient. People are done and tired of it. They want to have America back. And I just wanted to give credit to this one kid on the USC team, just said, you know what? We're going to fight back. These kind of things where you live in your school districts, in your areas. I have friends around here in Dallas doing things like this, putting word out saying, we don't want to have to wear a mask everywhere we go. We want to be able to go to the grocery store and not stop at the door unless our mask is fully covering our nose and mouth. We want to have normal life. These kind of things have big impact. They make news, and they cause other people to recognize, wow, there are other people out there in America who want freedom too. This is a calling of freedom to stand up and speak up in this time. Love this kid did that at USC. Okay, last topic for today, and ties in actually with our interview with Senator Marsha Blackburn, and has to do with the, I use the expression FeminExit. And obviously it's a play on Blexit, which is the Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum movement that's basically saying Black and Latina exit from the Democrat Party. What have the Democrats actually ever done to make your life better? The same argument applies to women. What exactly is it that the leftists in this country have done to make your life better? What is the reason you continue to vote for people whose policies don't help you? It's a very, very fair question to African Americans in this country, very fair question to feminists in this country. Women who are feminists who say, oh, yeah, women, feminists, we vote for the Democrat Party. They got our back. They're with us. Based on what? Based on what? I want to tell you some numbers, because FeminExit, if you're a woman, and supposedly women really, really care about the poor, minorities, and women, and fairness, and all this, if you are a feminist and you say, well, I vote with the Democrat Party because I really believe in equality, I vote to support because I have concerns about the poor and African Americans and minorities and women, and so this is why I vote for the Democrat Party. It's a very valid question. What is it the Democrats do to actually help? What the Democrats do is talk. They promise. They tell you that they really, really care. They tell you they're the ones. Democrats say, oh, no, we're the ones. And that, I feel your pain, the Bill Clinton line. We understand you. We believe you. We care about you. The messaging of the left, beside endlessly creating little silos of victims to turn against each other, but the messaging of the left is always, we have sympathy. We care. But if their policies don't work, what difference does it make, even if they really do care? Even if you really do think that Democrats in this country, for some bizarre reason, you actually think Democrats in this country care more about women and minorities and poor people, if their policies don't help, who cares whether they care? So, tying in to tell you some data that's out now about the Trump economy. And you have to sit back and remember, this is the Trump economy doing beautifully the first 3 years, even under the constant attack of the Democrat media mob, the left in this country, attacking President Trump, going after him, the Russia-Trump collusion, and then we had the whole impeachment, just idiocy, and endless attacks. And President Trump brought back jobs to America. He brought prosperity back to America. He brought companies home from abroad, created jobs in heartland America. He had the best economic numbers ever prior to COVID coming along, and even then have to deal with the challenge of COVID. But what President Trump did was put conservative policies in place and showed the world, yet again, as been shown many other times, that if you just put the right ideas in place and hold on to them and hang on to them and rely on them, you're going to make life better for everyone. So here are new numbers out. This is the middle class boom that benefited from Trump policies. So let me tell you just a few of these numbers. And again, you can read these on my website, americacanwetalk.org, on the homepage under shows, drop down list of links. Do you know that households in America have seen the biggest jump in real median income in this country in at least 52 years? That the poverty rate is lower than it has been since at least 1959. This is the annual census report now out on income and poverty. The government's numbers, the annual census report on poverty and income. Households have seen the biggest jump in real median income in 52 years. Poverty rate lower than it's been since at least 1959. Median household income reaches an all-time high. In 2019, median household income shot up 6.8%, the biggest annual increase since at least 1967. Lower income families gained the most. So contrary to what the left is always arguing, that Republican policies are all about benefiting the rich and cutting taxes for the rich, the true story is conservative fiscal policies help poor people. This is something the Democrats do not want you to understand. Conservative fiscal policies help poor people. So the lower income families in this country gained the most. Despite all the chants about, President Trump only cares about the rich, lower income families made the biggest gains in median income in the first 3 years of Trump's presidency. Lower income families made the biggest gains. The bottom fifth of households saw their incomes climb 10% under Trump. The top 5% of households saw their share of total income drop. These are things, I mean, if these were numbers that came out of a Democrat presidency, if you had some Democrat in the White House, the media, every outlet in the country would be screaming these numbers. But because it's a Republican president and conservative fiscal policies that brought this great news to America, you're not going to hear about it because they're not going to tell you. Another factoid, women gained ground. The female to male earnings ratio, which is by itself very flawed, but the whole argument about comparing female income versus male income, we talk about many times in my show, is a flawed statistic, but it's a statistic the left points to all the time. But it improved, the left is fixated on this, and it improved under President Trump. The flawed measure of inequality, which is female to male earnings ratio, went from 81.7 in 2017 to 82.3 in 2019. That's the highest ratio in more than 50 years. So if you're fixated on female versus male, you know, the ratio in pay, leaving aside what they do to earn their pay, if you're fixated on that, President Trump did the best job that had been done, or the policies. Again, it's not Trump personally, it's conservative fiscal policies. Again, this measure, female to male earnings, went from 81.7 in 2017 to 82.3 in 2019. That's the highest ratio in more than 50 years. And the numbers go on and on and on and on and on. I wanted to close out this show by talking about those numbers, but to make this point about my FeminExit mantra, I'm going to start numbering these and talking to you about them, because this is, when you look at Trump's polling numbers, he's doing well. He's doing better and better in all the swing states, and he's putting in place fiscal conservative policies, the kind of policies that actually work to help, again, that do the best in helping women, minorities, including Hispanics, and low-income Americans. Trump's policies made life better for all those groups of people that the left always claims they care about. For all those groups of people the left always claims, this is why women should vote for Democrats, because we Democrats care about minorities and women and people in poverty. We care, vote for us. But their policies never work. They don't make life better. And so if you actually care, do you go with the people who say they care but never help you, or do you go with the policies that work? Whether you do or don't like the president or do or don't like the Republican Party, you should go with, if you're actually voting to help the people you say you care about, you've got to vote with the policies that make life better for them. I thought of this analogy I was going to make, which is, the analogy people talk about how when you are trying to talk to a woman who's in an abusive relationship and, all the bad things happen, her husband is abusive, repeatedly abusive, and, but she always comes back to, but he says he loves me, and he says he won't do it again, and he says he really cares. And at some point, her friends or social workers or someone saying, stop listening to what he says and pay attention to what he does. It doesn't matter how many times he said, I'm really, really sorry. It'll never happen again. I know I have been abusive 17 times, but this is it. I swear I won't do it again. Her friends, her family, her loved ones, social workers, the police, everyone finally said to women, don't stay with someone who's abusing you just because he says he cares. And that's kind of analogous to women. Don't keep voting for the left because they say they care. It's not enough that they message that they care. It's not enough that they come up with all sorts of fancy sounding slogans, that they have tax cuts for the rich and all the things it doesn't matter if they come up with program names that sound really helpful. It doesn't even matter if they come up with programs that actually spend money, such as the Great Society programs. Things the left will tout and say, this is why the poor, minorities, African Americans, women should vote for us, because look at all we do. We spend money to help you. And all the data show, as we've been over on this show many times, that the Great Society, it did hand out money. It did not improve poverty. It made life worse for black families and other low-income families in this country in the concentrated inner cities because it broke up the family. It dissolved the family unit. The rise in single-parent households paralleled the rise in Great Society government spending. So even when the left says, but we're spending money, we're showing you we care, we're building new programs, we're more and more money out the door. If their programs don't actually heal poverty, if they don't make life better, you're just like the abused woman who says, but this time he says he cares, and listen to these great things. He told me he cares. He said this. He bought me something new. The ideas of the left don't work to heal poverty. They, in fact, do exactly the opposite. The ideas of the left, the big government programs the left creates, the big government policies that create dependency, weakness, a new plantation of low-income Americans dependent on the government. They're not healing America. They're not helping the poor. They are creating a permanent, impoverished class of people who they think they can count on in the next election cycle and the next and the next. It is time for women and all of the other groups that the left tries to target and say, the Democrat Party tries to target and say, we own your vote. We own the women's vote. Nancy Pelosi's used term very close to what I'm saying. You know, we own the women's vote. We own the black vote. We own the Hispanic vote. We own the vote of the poor. They're always arguing they get that vote because they say they care, because they spend money. But when you look at the numbers I just told you about, and these aren't the only ones, there's good ideas like freedom, free markets, limited government, bringing back a strong economy, bringing people out of the dependence on government and into the workforce. These ideas work every time they're tried, and they bless Americans. The FeminExit idea, I'll be talking about more and more and more, is that women need to be inspired to believe in themselves, to believe that they can thrive under freedom, that they do not need to be yet another dependent in the left-wing plantation that the left has created in this country and continues to try to sell. And here in 2020, it's not just a government spending program, it's not just a big society program. The left has now moved into actual radical socialism, Marxism, communist, government-controlled economy and society. This is where the left is trending, and they're using the same arguments that they used to sell the Great Society. The left is arguing, buy into socialism, buy into Marxism, buy into all of this, because after all, we care. We're just trying to make life better. We're just trying to help. Just buy into everything we're saying, and then everything will be fine. You're asked to surrender your soul, surrender your freedom, surrender your opportunity, surrender the promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to the left, who will say, don't worry, we care. And that's why we're taking over every aspect of American culture, society, and economy. It's why we're bringing Marxism to the front door of America. Vote for us. We just want to help. FeminExit has got to get rolling in this country. The exit of women voting for the Democrat Party, voting for the Democrat Party's messaging of remaining weak we've got to stand up and fight it and say no. Women, like you heard in the star of the show today, with Senator Marsha Blackburn's book, talking to her, women need to rise up and to be able to understand the ideas of America's founding, the roots of conservatism, the roots of the ideas of everything we stand for on the conservative side, for rule of law and limited government and federalism, all these ideas. We have to be not just embracing those ideas, we have to be the ones able to explain them to the next generation, able to explain them to the people who kind of blindly vote for the Democrat Party because somebody told them the Democrat Party cares about women. We have a mission and a job to spread that message to the women of America. That's our job, and we can do it.